Generally, though, I'd say also like A/B testing is a best practice. We've been doing that internally, honestly, like A/B testing, gating versus not gating. I think it's easy to assume that customers will prefer one, the other will show results, but sometimes the best thing you can just do is test it.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Behind the Experience, where we give you an inside look behind the top product-led experience. Each week, we give you inspiring new examples, proven strategies, and hard-earned lessons from experts. This is one of your co-hosts, Family John. One of my other co-hosts, Lila, is on vacation today. I'm excited to be chatting with Natalie. She is the head of growth and operations at Navattic, a solution for product-led companies to create interactive product demos. I'm very bullish on product demos, and anything that you can ungate, that would be great. So we're going to be digging in on that really deeply today, as well as showing Navattic in all its glory. Natalie, how are things with you today?
Doing well. It's day before a long weekend, so can't complain. Yeah, I'm excited to chat all things interactive product demos.
Well, let's jump right in. For people who are tuning in, they might not have seen an interactive product demo before, or they have and they don't know that it is. Can you briefly describe what an interactive product demo is and is not?
Yeah, I think the best way to describe it is essentially like a try before you buy experience, but for software. So what that means is that you can test out a product. It looks and feels like the real thing. It's not just screenshots, and you can walk through it, but you don't need a salesperson walking you through it to create an account. You're just like instantly seeing that product and kind of using it a little bit.
People might not have seen this before, but an example I can think of, we'll probably get to that. But Google Analytics was one of the things I thought of before, where they have like this demo that people can click in. But what are other companies that you've seen use product demos really well? Maybe even Navattic customers who are using it really well.
Yeah, I'll start with some Navattic customers and give some other examples. So some of our favorite Dooley, they have it on their product pages.
Yeah.
So instead of kind of just the static screenshots that we're all used to on product pages that like give you a tiny glimpse of what the product is, but not enough, they have these little bite-sized ones that are really cool because you can, again, get a tiny experience of the feature without getting the whole thing. So it still makes you want to sign up or try more. And then as far as sorry, I was just going to say some non-Navattic ones. I remember Unbounce. I don't know if they still have this, but they used to, where you used to be able to instantly start creating websites and editing them from their actual website. This wasn't a Navattic demo. This is something they built in-house, but basically trying a little bit of the product before actually signing up.
That makes sense. I'm a big fan of Dooley. I'm a big fan of their marketing and their people. I think Camilla and a few other folks that work there. So great to see that they're one of the Navattic customers. One of the things I'm curious about is, and I'm sure you've heard this asked before, around like if a product-led company already has a free trial or a freemium, why not just drive people to sign up for that free trial and still offer this interactive product demo? What would you respond to those people who ask that?
Yeah, so we actually dug into the data a bit and found that about 40% of our current customers actually have some type of PLG motion. So it's pretty common for PLG companies to still want an interactive product demo. I think there are a few main reasons. One, so let's say you have a little more complex of a product or something that requires personal or maybe just like more in-depth data to see value. So for example, one of our customers is Ramp. They are, fintech, expense management. You have to enter your bank account in a free trial to see value. And not everyone's ready to enter their bank account the first time they see a product or interact with it. So they put an Explore product CTA on their website. They have a great interactive product demo. But as you go along, they're still prodding you to do a free trial. They're still CTA saying, do a free trial. That's the ultimate goal. But this way, people can see the product, get a little familiar, and then say, okay, I'm ready now to put in my credit card or put in my bank information. Another reason might be if you're someone who has a free trial and you have a lot of people who are just kind of like abandoning it, right? Like low conversion rates. Yeah. If you want to kind of get out those people who are just there to kind of poke around the product, then they can do that on the website instead. And then they get an idea for it rather than kind of messing up your data and your free trialers with all those people who really just want to get a quick glimpse of what this is.
That makes a ton of sense. I think I love that you brought up that data, and are you seeing more I can see, like, especially where it takes a while for the product to get to the aha moment, that an interactive product demo might actually be very, very helpful. An example might even be AppQues, where you have to install a JavaScript. You have to bother the engineering team and get it installed. Is that what you're seeing? Like a good, those product led companies are free trial, freemium, but it takes a while to get it installed. Is a great company that could be take advantage of an interactive product demo.
Yeah, that's a perfect example. And I was actually a customer of Navattic before joining. And what we had is I was at like a CRM company, and to see value, you had to import your data, right? And
Yeah.
you might not have access to your leads as an individual sales rep. You might not be like allowed to, or you might just not trust, like, this is your personal lead list. Or I want to just put it in a random free trial. So we experimented instead with an interactive demo where they could immediately see the value without having to import anything.
That makes a ton of sense. And I also imagine that a lot of sales-led companies that are looking to take advantage of product-led growth, which is, people I've been talking a lot more in the last couple of years. This is a great, like, starting ground. Like, trying to build a free trial, freemium, it takes a while, especially if that's not something that the organization has capabilities of.
Definitely. I always kind of call this like PLG light. And these interactive demos, I don't think we mentioned this yet, but they're no code. So as a marketer, you could create one of these in 30 minutes. So while going PLG might take 6 months to a year, you can, make an interactive demo in 30 minutes. And our general time from like sign to go live is about 2 weeks.
Wow.
So if you're someone who wants to go PLG, but maybe wants to test it first, maybe wants to see how customers react to it first, this is also a good way to sort of prove that out without needing 6 months to a year of investment.
Makes total sense. The other thing I'm really curious about is who are you seeing owning this interactive product demos? Are you seeing more product managers, or even maybe like customer facing marketers are the ones who are owning this product demo, or even maybe the sales team? I'm really curious who you're finding owns this, creating this this interactive product demo.
So we see a mix of different kind of product owners. I'd say the main ones are, product marketers or growth marketers, or actually solution engineers. It's not typically the salesperson themselves, even though they might be the end users of this. It's usually the builders, as we describe it, are product marketing, growth, and then solution engineers. And then the users are more, lead gen, demand gen, and then salespeople.
Makes sense. Thank you for sharing that. I want to jump into a few Navattic screens right from Navattic. So this is behind the experience. So I'm gonna be digging into the Navattic experience. For people who are tuning in, I'm seeing the main Navattic site. It says creative interactive product demos, and as soon as somebody clicks in, there's obviously main front and center is try. We let our product speak for itself. Try it below, and this is Queen of Google Analytics demo. I think the first question I'm curious about is like why Google Analytics? And you said, before we started recording, you said this is actually a new experience. What was it before, and why did the Google Analytics demo, the main background that you built, the team built the Navattic experience around?
Yeah, so this is actually a week old, so brand new. What we used to have was kind of this dual experience where one side was an example demo, and it actually also was Google Analytics. I'll touch on why Google Analytics in a second. But then the other example was a demo of Navattic using Navattic. And we realized people weren't really understanding that dual concept. It was like what you build versus what you build with, but that wasn't as obvious to people who weren't familiar with interactive demos. So we said, instead, let's just make one really short one as if you were building a Google Analytics demo. I still think there's more experimentation to be done here. One thing that we've actually really struggled with is it's a very meta concept to have an interactive demo of an interactive demo. So how do you best describe that? Yeah. And the reason we've been choosing Google Analytics is because, one, most people know what it is. So that we are not Google Analytics, because we used to, way back when, we used to have an example app. Right. And the example app, people would be like, oh, this is Navattic. And it's like, no, this is an example app. But what's nice about Google Analytics is people are like, okay, that's not Navattic. And then two, partly it's our ICP is marketers. So it's something that they're just going to be familiar with. And I kind of, whenever you see something like that, it tells you a little bit in your head, like, oh, this is for me, because this is an example I understand.
That totally makes sense. That was my best guess, would be like your main users are marketers. And even then, like engineers or entrepreneurs would know like Google Analytics here. So, I understand. It's interesting. Another really interesting insight is that when you had that fake app, people got confused. It's like, oh, is this Navattic? And then Google Analytics it makes it more clear that it's not Navattic itself, but it's a demo of Navattic on top of Google Analytics. That's what I found with like using fake data would be like people get confused if it's their data or not. And this is a great workaround, and it's something that you found through this is what I'm hearing.
Yeah, and like I said, we're still testing, so we're still trying to see what the optimal experience is. But right now, from what we've seen so far, it seems like this experience is just a little more clear as far as what you're actually going through and what you're building rather than before the dual experience, I think, was just a little too much, especially for above the fold. Like, I think we realized we were maybe throwing people in to the full thing a little too early.
Right. Oh, so that's
Considering it
why
is.
the above the fold is like, did it used to be above the fold and then you kind of moved it down? Oh, it's still above the fold. I'm sorry. It is. So like
Yeah.
that demo's right above the fold. Okay. Makes
It
sense.
was a much longer demo though too. And we actually tell our customers, we realized we weren't following our best practices. We say, like, honestly, like 6 to 10 steps. We see big drop off rates around 8 steps. So we realized like a long demo as the first thing you see above the fold might just be too far long for people who are just coming to the website. And one thing we're thinking about for future iterations of the website is maybe having, kind of as I alluded to with Dooley, on the feature pages, right? Maybe that's where we have the more in-depth features where they can really walk through it after they've been a little more educated.
That makes a ton of sense. Another really interesting insight I found here is like, people clicking through this demo. One of the things I found interesting is around this feature around blurring data. And I have a hunch that this is like something that probably came up over and over again from, questions to the sales teams. Like, can I blur my customers' data because his privacy is on top of mind? Is that like an assumption I'm making, or like, is there another reason why blurring is made one of the steps that you get prospects to click around this interactive product demo?
Yeah, you hit it on the head that it really was like an aha moment in the demo when people saw that you could edit your software or your captures, what we call them. The fact that, if you take a capture of your application and then you can go and edit it, you don't have to change the original code. You can easily make updates. It's not like a product video where, right, you spend months making this beautiful product video and then the UI changes and then you have to redo the entire thing. Instead, you could just go into our editor. Maybe if you don't want to show a section, you could blur it. You can also change text, images, all that. But we felt like the blurring was the kind of the one of the most like pop out thing. Like, just changing the text isn't as showy. It's like blurring. It's like, oh, I instantly get that you can make edits to this.
Ah, that's interesting. So like that really gets to your point, is that it's that aha moment. Like, you don't just capture, you can actually update it and make changes to it particularly well. The other thing that you mentioned before we started recording is around this share function. So once they've saved it, there's, one of the steps is share your demo here, and then it gets, the first thing I thought about is like, I'm gonna click on this copy button and then share it to my team. Any interesting insight from particularly this screen that shows the share modal?
Yeah, I think one thing that we run to a lot, and it's very ironic talking to you about this because it's kind of with AppQs, is that people think sometimes that we're like AppQs, that we are an in-app product or platform. So the reason we include this last slide was to make it very clear, like, we are not in-app. We are an out-and-app experience where you can send a link of this interactive demo or embed it on your website, just like we're seeing here. Like, this is an interactive demo. So we really wanted to add that in to make it very clear that we're not like an in-app product tours. This is something that you use more for a prospecting or top of funnel.
That makes a ton of sense. I think that sharing it makes it obvious, like that. You can't when it's in app. You can't share app use. You can't share app use in app product tours to other people. But this makes it really clear. Absolutely, like the value is, from the previous steps is very clear. Like you capture it, you edit it, and tweak it to hide any private data, as well as like really highlight any kind of special value proposition of the product, and then finally share it. I think that's the whole. Within a few seconds, I understood what Navattic does, and I think this is the power of interactive product demos, and I'm sure this is what other Navattic customers are seeing is the value of this.
Yeah, I think one of the best parts about having this interactive demo, and obviously what a lot of customers come to us is they're saying, like, people hop on our sales calls, or maybe they get into the free trial and they don't really know what they're signing up for or they're starting. One thing I get into the habit of is listening to sales recordings. Like, we use Grain to do so, but you can also use Gong. And I love nothing more than hearing a prospect say, I get it. I did the demo, so this is how it works. You just tell me a little more, like I want to see it in action. But the fact that they already have an idea of what the product does before going into that first call, one, just makes them more qualified and makes that they know what they're signing up for. Again, this isn't a window shopper who's just like, I just wanted to see what it was. But two, also really speeds up the sales cycle. We can do one quick demo. They understand it, get into some more nitty gritty features because they've already seen that overview.
There's one thing that you mentioned there that I just want to highlight for folks. I think when people talk about the aha moment, and I get this all the time, it's like, oh, the aha moment is, happens after somebody signs up and, they're clicking around. But the best aha moments, the very first aha moment should happen before somebody signs up, even before they do the call, because it makes the call a lot easier. It makes the whole free trial experience or freemium experience a lot easier because now people are motivated. So that's really interesting insight that you shared there with that. And I think the final comment I want to share is around, do you have any data around, I'm sure you have data around this with either Navattic customers. I'm guessing the people who go through this interactive product demos are a lot higher quality. They close quicker. They close more often. Is that true, or do you have any stats or any kind of numbers that kind of backs up that yes, it does improve conversion rates when they go through this interactive product demo?
Yeah, I could talk through a few stats. As far as more on the sales side, we had one customer, Factory 4, who's now Xometry. They actually were able to cut their sales cycle in half by being able to use these interactive product demos because, again, people were educated beforehand. I'd also see generally, we've heard a few anecdotal stories of like 30% conversion rates increase when putting these on the websites. Another really cool example I like to point out is a customer of ours, Accord. They wanted to create this template gallery, similar to maybe like Canva, Miro, how they have this on their website, but they want to do this without having to buy their product. So they created a template gallery all with these interactive demos. So if you go in, you can go to Accord's website and say like, okay, how do I use this? Oh, here are real examples from real customers of the templates they've created. And I can, go through the demo, check it out. And they saw a 30% increase in conversion rate across their entire website. And just anecdotally, as I'd say, more qualitative, I think just hearing on the sales calls again and again, like, yeah, I have an understanding of it. I get it. We hear that a lot from customers too. Just like, these are some of the most qualified leads that our sales team gets.
I love it, and I'm totally with you there. I think it's super exciting to be seeing this more used in the market. I'm curious as well as to people who are interested in getting started with interactive product demos. Do you have any best practice or tips that you can share? I'm sure you've seen maybe dozens or even hundreds of interactive product demos interacting with Navattic customers. But what are some best practices in terms of implementing these?
Yeah, the first thing I'll say is like, I would recommend, just no matter what, experimenting with more product on your website. So whether it's images, videos, or obviously we're a little biased towards demos, but just start experimenting with whatever's fastest. Like, just get your product more on your website. But as far as best practices for these demos, so I mentioned before, keeping it short, you want to hook them in and then you can show them more later. So what we always recommend, the first flow, we call it, that first guide, 8 to 15 steps max. And then have a dual CTA at the end. One that points to like, get a demo or try a free trial. And then the second that says keep going. And then you can give them options to keep going and exploring, but not forcing them. And they get that aha moment right away. The second big tip I'd say is we have a checklist functionality that we've seen a lot of success with. So a lot of questions we get is like, what if I don't want to force someone to go through the entire demo? What if they just want to see this one feature functionality, or by use case? What if I sell to multiple personas and they just want to see what this would be like for their persona? We encourage using that checklist. So then you can go into the checklist and say, okay, I only want to go to, for example, going back to Ramp, for example, like they have an accounting section. If I'm an accountant, I don't care about all of Ramp. I'm just going to go to the accounting section. I don't have to go through the entire demo. That's another little bit over videos that we see. For videos, you kind of have to watch the whole thing to see that part that applies to you. But the checklist, you can easily go in, just like, yep, this is good for me.
Interesting. That makes a ton of sense. And then for the other one, it's interesting that you're splitting it. Like, if people who want to jump on a call, you can click here. for people who want to keep going, I'm guessing for product-led companies, it's sign up for a free trial, jump here, or if they don't have a free trial, go to that checklist or go to a different feature page is where you would suggest for the keep going part. Is what I'm hearing. Is
Yeah.
that right?
Or keep doing more tours. Like you could build out as many tours as you want. So you can go. A lot of things we'll say is like give the overview, and then the next thing might be like, okay, now go to this specific feature. Like for us, maybe it's go to the editing functionality.
Another really interesting, and it just hit me now, is are you able to track like what tours somebody's seen so that like, hey, they've checked out this specific feature around our hunting software. When they jump on a sales call, where that's what we're going to talk about versus the hundreds of other features that we have. I'm guessing that's a yes, but I just want to confirm because that's really interesting insight now, because people talk all about PQL, this product qualified lead, but this could be a really interesting transition now to product demo qualified lead. I'm not entirely sure what it would be.
It's so funny you mentioned that, because I think an ideal world for me would be one day there's a demo qualified lead. But that's spot on what you said. There are kind of two different ways you can use this data. So at the individual level, we have integrations with HubSpot, Salesforce, and then also like Zapier segment. So you can send it places. So as a rep, I could go into my HubSpot, my Salesforce, and see the person I'm speaking with, okay, the last flow that they visited, the thing that they're most interested in was all around accounting. I'm going to focus in on accounting. Or you could use that data for qualification. Like we've created workflows in HubSpot where, if they made it this far into the interactive tour, and then maybe layer in other HubSpot data. If they made it this far and they're this size and they're in this industry, send them to a salesperson. Like that's a high qualified lead. Versus if they only made it to step one, maybe we need to send them an email follow up, maybe send them even a shorter tour or something else that might interest them. And then you could also on the aggregate level, see what are your most popular flows, which ones are getting, they're getting the furthest along. And then that also is product feedback, right? Like if everyone is going more to the accounting section, let's say in the ramp example, then it's like, oh, maybe we should develop this feature more.
That makes a ton of time. I'm really excited to hear that. Demo qualified lead. You've heard it first here at the show, but it is super exciting to hear that. I think like you're really showing the value of the product even before people get into the product, and that would improve in that product user onboarding experiences as well. And the question I have is around, there's this whole debate that I'm seeing around the marketing sphere around whether people should ask for the email upfront or ask for it after the demo, the product demo. What are your thoughts around this for interactive product demos? Do you ask for it before people see the interactive product demo, or ask for it after they've completed a few steps?
It's funny because I think almost every single one of our customers ask us this question: do we gate it or do we not gate it? I always have a similar answer, and the annoying marketing answer of it depends. I think, if this is a lead gen tool, like you want to follow up with these people, you want to be able to get in contact with them. And also if you have a really built out tour, I would say, don't do just like a really small tour if you're going to ask for the gate. Like make sure it's really of value. But if it's a full length tour with 8 different, multiple flows in that checklist, I think that's fine to ask for the email, but then follow up in a valuable way. If I give my email, I'm not upset about it if I get a really relevant follow up. On the flip side, if your main issue that you're seeing right now is unqualified leads, or on the flip side, a free trial, like a lot of pokers or people who are just kind of experimenting, you probably want to ungate it because you want those people to see the product and kind of disqualify themselves. Because if they see an email gate, they might just go book a demo anyways. So it depends on your company and your goal really for it. Generally though, I'd say also like A/B testing is a best practice. We've been doing that internally, honestly, like A/B testing, gating versus not gating. I think it's easy to assume that customers will prefer one or the other will show results, but sometimes the best thing you can just do is test it.
Yeah, I love it. An interesting analogy or story around that was with when I was working at product led, we made our our course ungated, and it actually performed worse when we ungated it. It's like, oh, well, that's interesting. Less people were finishing it, less people were getting through the very end. So super interesting around us. Thank you for sharing that. Just a couple more questions. One question before we end is, any kind of experiments you're excited to try out next in terms of the interactive product demos, or I heard there's something coming up next for Navattic in terms of something. I don't want to ruin for everybody, but maybe you can talk a little bit about what you're excited about to try out next.
Yeah, we have some big updates coming in the next few months. I can't talk too much about it, but what I can talk about as part of those updates is a big website redesign. And one thing we're going to be experimenting more and more is, like I said, using these product demos as far as I mentioned, on different pages, multiple product demos, potentially even showing things like integration, like how can we have them throughout the experience? And another thing we're thinking about that we're really excited on is how can we highlight our customers' demos more? We find actually, and maybe that's our solution rather than trying to make our own, but the aha moment for us often happens when we show a customer example. Because when they see it real in the wild, they see these customers using it. It's also just like, oh, I could use it that way. I could use it that way. I didn't even think about that. So we're really thinking in this new website, like how can we make our customers the forefront? And in a lot of our marketing, that's what I try to think about in blog posts and social, all of that. Our customer tours are awesome. Like how can we just spotlight them and the great work they're doing?
Makes a ton of sense. And another idea just hit me around. It would be cool if somebody created a bunch of interactive product demos around products they know, like Canva or Miro, or maybe I'm not entirely sure, but it's like they understand already what the product does, but like seeing this library of these would be super super cool. Well, that's all the time we have. Thank you so much. One final question: where can people find out more about you and your work online, as well as where can people find out more about interactive product demos and Navattic online as well?
Yeah, so my work, just my LinkedIn as usual. I try to post mostly about like Navattic or product demo best practices. If you can follow the Navattic page itself, like I said, you'll see some of those customer spotlights. You'll also see obviously some other things that we're doing. And then just our website, navattic.com. It's going to get a big facelift coming up soon, so you can see the before and after.
Super excited. Thank you so much for your time, Natalie. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me.